No, what's going on? What's he doing?
Shalom.
Hello. Wait,
Rav.
Sami, have to try again. Something went wrong.
Oh, there we go. All right, hello everybody. Salam alaikum. Today we're going to do some Parashat Shavua, Parashat Shelach. It's a very, very nice, important parasha. Let's just get into it. You'll see. All right, it says Vaidaber. All right, did I share? I'll share my screen. Even though it's more for me, the text that's here, than for you. But why not? I'll share it. There we go. The parasha starts, Vaidaber Adonai in Moshe Nemor, right? God spoke to Moshe, Shelach lecha anashim, says, send forth people, veyaturu et eres Canaan. So they should scout out the land of Canaan. They're going out on a mission, Asher ani noten livnei Israel, which I am giving to the people of Israel. Vayishlach otam Moshe, and he sends them forth. It says, Kulam anashim. It says, when it says anashim, it means they're important people. They are all important people. Rashe bnei Israel hema. These are the heads of bnei Israel, the heads of the tribes. These are presidents of the tribe. They are also members of the Supreme Court of Israel, the Sanhedrin. These are really important people. Ve'ele shemotam, and he starts to list their names. Nemate Yehuda, Calev ben Yefuneh. We're not getting to everyone's name. So to the tribe of Judah, they sent Calev ben Yefuneh. Nemate Ephraim, right? Hoshea bin Nun. And for the tribe of Ephraim, they sent Yehoshua. At the time, his name was Hoshea bin Nun. It says, Vayikra Moshe leHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. It says, and Moshe gave Hoshea, he changed his name. He added a yod to the beginning of his name, and he calls him Yehoshua. It says, the Hachamim say, regarding Yehoshua, it says, Vayikra Moshe leHoshea bin Nun. It says, Moshe prayed for the sake of Yehoshua. And he says, why did he add a yod? It says, Yah Yoshiacha me'asat ha-meraglim. It says, may God save you from the counsel of the other Meraglim, the other spies. And Rav Messaas, he asks a very important question. Rav Messaas, he was the chief Rabbi of Morocco. Ovadia Yosef tried to convince him to come to Israel for a long time. He said, I can't leave my community in Morocco without anybody. Eventually, once Beit Chabad was established there, he agreed to leave Morocco, and he came, and he was appointed head of the Batei Din in Yerushalayim. And he was a genius. I love his commentaries. I love also his halachic analysis that he has for things, and he has a whole commentary on the Parashat Shavua, on all the Parashiyot. So Rav Messaas, he asks, he says, וכי חשד משה משרתו הנאמן שגם הוא יהיה מושפע מעצת המרגלים. He says, and what did Moshe see? Well, Yehoshua is his beloved student. He studies very closely with Moshe. Why was he so worried that Yehoshua is going to be affected by the counsel of the Meraglim? He says, not only that, but we see at the end, he says, Omnam mafliya davar, he says, and this is an outstanding thing, levasof, in the end, we see nidgala shivcho shel Calev gadol mi Yehoshua. We see that Calev was even greater than Yehoshua, because Calev didn't need a special blessing from Moshe. Yehoshua got a special blessing to protect him from the counsel of the Meraglim. But Calev, we see, he was able to stand up to the Meraglim without any special blessing. He says, what was that thing that Calev had that protected him, which Yehoshua maybe was lacking, and therefore needed a special blessing from Moshe. שלא הוצרך משה להתפלל עבורו, he didn't need Moshe to pray for him. It says, כי כלב היה לאומי. Calev was nationalistic. He had national pride because he's from the tribe of Judah. He's a lion. מאותם אשר אהבת הלאום והארץ בוערת בקרבם. He says he's from those people that the love of their nationality, the love of their land and their country is burning within them. ואהבתם לארץ היא טבעית ופשוטה. It says, and their love for the land is natural and it's simple. It's default. It says, and this is what protects people from the Atzat HaMeragilim. And we'll see how that comes to life in our life. How did we see that Calev was so nationalistic? It says, Hazal, they say that, it says that the people, they went from the Meraglim, they went from one place to another. It says, Vayavo, Vayilchu, Vayavo, Vayilchu, Vayavo, all in the plural. Then all of a sudden it says, Vayavo Hebron. In the singular, it says he came to Hebron. And the Chachamim learned from that it was Calev who went to Hebron. It says really they all went to Hebron. But why does it say Vayavo Hebron? All right? So there's a great midrash over there. It says Melamed shenishtatach an kivrei avot, that he went and prostrated himself on the tombs of the fathers, at the graves of the fathers. And so a lot of people like to think nishtatach, prostrate, is he went to pray. But nishtatach, the word to prostrate yourself, comes from the word shetach. Shetach literally means land. You're spreading out your arms and your legs. What he was doing effectively is grabbing land, and we see at the end in Sefer Yehoshua, after they're dividing the country, right? Calev gets Hebron as his inheritance. Everyone else had to get He got Hebron. Why did he get Hebron? It's because he conquered Hebron. He's the one that went out and conquered Hebron. And he conquered it even before we entered the land. He went and he grabbed Hebron and claimed it. And it's interesting because how do we know that he conquered it? Because of that. And that ties back into the Parasha, where it says, Vayavo Hebron, where at the end of Sefer Yehoshua, he says Calev he's in his 80s, he's like 85 years old, and he says to Yehoshua, he says, Ve'od yesh li koach laset ve'lavo, I still have energy to go out and fight, but the term that he uses over there is laset ve'lavo, the same term used in the Parasha, Vayavo Hebron. Right, so when he's saying, when the Torah is saying Calev came to Hebron, is using the same term that Calev uses afterwards to say, I still have energy to go out and fight. That's the connection where Calev actually came and conquered Hebron. And that nationalistic, we'll call it mindset, right, was in itself a protection from the Atzat HaMeragilim. All right? And let's see what this Atzat HaMeragilim is. All right, it says, Aval Yehoshua, however, Yehoshua, who was the servant of Moshe, he was always studying Torah, never left the Beit Midrash. It says, Lo yamush mitoch ha'ohel, he never left the tent, right? And he's always studying Torah. He never had this nationalistic feeling growing in him because he was a studious type. Moshe, who knew this tendency of Yehoshua. You know, he's great in Torah and everything, but doesn't have this experience with all these other all these other people saying, no, you got to do this, right? No, let's not go out to war. No, we're too weak. No, the nations over there, they're too big, right? He never had to withstand that kind of resistance. So Moshe knows that Yehoshua needs some extra empowering. And so he blesses him with the extra name, letter from God's name, and he says, Yah Yoshiacha me'asat hameraglim. And what is this asat hameraglim, this council, this evil council of the spies? It says, Vayosiu dibat haaretz asher taru otah. Right, they went and they spoke badly about the land which they have now went to scout. It says, V'sham ra'inu, and over there we saw it, the nefinim bnei anak min nefinim. We saw these great people, these giants, right? These descendants of Anak. Vanehi be'anenu kehagavim v'chen hayinu be'anehem. Says, and we saw ourselves as locusts, and so they saw us too, like that. Says, but you have to pay attention. What are they saying here? It says, Vanehi be'anenu kehagavim. First, they saw themselves in comparison to the inhabitants of the land as puny, as small, as locusts. We're just a small nation, right? We're only 8 million people. How are we gonna fight the biggest country in the Middle East? It says no. We see ourselves as small and weak and puny, like a locust that you can step on and squash. And so too, that's how we were in their eyes, meaning they're projecting their own insecurities on the inhabitants of the land. And we'll see later that that's not at all how the inhabitants of the land saw us. All right, but they're projecting their own puny insecurities on the inhabitants of the land. All right. Does this sound familiar? Right? Even now, even today, even like a few days into the war that we're already, completely humiliating the Iranians, you still hear people saying, well, what's the end game of the war? How dare we go out to war with Iran? Since we already established our superiority, and they're still questioning if we're capable of managing the war with Iran. Right? So we can't take out the Iranian nuclear project on our own. Why not? Who says we can't? Who thought that we could take out their entire air defenses in 3 hours? But we did. Who says we can't take on Iran? We are, and it's working. Do we need America? Maybe. Maybe we don't. Who knows? Who cares? It's irrelevant. Just stop looking at yourself as so tiny and puny, right? They see us as puny. No, it's you're projecting your own insecurities on our enemies. And it's not true. All right? So these are people that they lack this nationalistic feeling, and they have no national pride, right? They feel humiliated. That's just their mental state. And how do you protect yourself from this evil counsel of the Meraglim, right? These Meraglim, they're living among us still today. Says, well, Moshe, he's not around to start adding yods and heys to everyone's name today. He's going to come to us and say, let's add a yod to your name, let's add an aleph to your name in order to bless you with God's name. He says, no, but the end of the Parasha gives us an antidote to this evil counsel. It gives us a special mitzvah. It says, "Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor." God says to Moshe, this is the ending of the Parasha, "Daber el bnei Israel ve'amarta alehem," to speak to the nation of Israel and say to them, "Ve'asu lahem sisit al kanfei bichdehem ledorotam." Says they should put sisit, right? Here's a sisit. Let's see, could you see it in the camera? Right? Add a sisit, right, on the corners of their beged for generations to come. Venatenu al sisit kanaf petil techelet. And it says you should put one of those, let's see how to do it, okay. Right, one of those strings should be a techelet string, a light blue string. All right, this is the petil techelet, right? This is basically the design of our flag. Our flag was designed based on the talet, the white and the techelet and the light blue, right? Because what is this light blue? And what is the purpose of the techelet? So the Chachamim, they say, what's the techelet? Techelet domen hayam. The techelet resembles the sea. V'hayam domen rakia, right? And the sea resembles the sky. V'rakia domen lekisei hakavod. And the skies resembles the holy throne, right? So what is it doing? Okay, so we're taking the people who they're so used to having their heads smacked down, 2,000 years of exile, right? They feel completely humiliated. They don't walk with their back straight. They don't walk with their heads up. They walk crouched, looking down, right? Like a bunch of pathetic losers, and they're walking around. And what is the Sisi telling you? He says, no, look down. You see that blue color over there? You see this color of royalty? This is meant to make you look a little bit straight. Look, you see the yam, right? You see the ocean? All right, look up just a little bit more. You see over there, you got the skies? Yeah, fix your posture. That's what the tzitzit is meant to do. Stop looking down, start looking up. Start having some pride. All right? And it was a big miracle that happened. The techelet has been gone for thousands of years. All of a sudden, we come back to Eretz Israel. We come back to our land, and now we rediscover the techelet that our ancestors used back 2,000 years ago in the times of the Mishnah. Now, how do we know, by the way, that this is the techelet? Well, we found workshops, ancient workshops for producing techelet with the same sea slug shells, right, where they extracted the techelet from to produce the techelet that we use today. Another way that we know that this is the techelet, and this is just to show you what the importance of the techelet is that the Romans outlawed techelet, not just for the Jewish people. It wasn't a religious decree to outlaw techelet. It was a royal decree that only from a certain status and above, you have to be of a certain level in either the Roman military or in the Roman government to be eligible to wear two colors. Techelet was one of them, and the other was violet, because these are colors of royalty. And that's the exact purpose that we wear the techelet, is to remind us, no, you're not Hagavim, you're not locusts, you're royalty. You're the sons of God. Even when we look to the first Mishnah that we have, right? Masechet Berachot says, Me'ematai korin Kiryat Shema b'shacharit. Right? Actually, the first one talks about reading Kiryat Shema in the evenings, but then it goes on to reading Kiryat Shema in the mornings. Right? What is Kiryat Shema? It's claiming God's royalty, that He's our God. This is all Malchut Shammai, that we accept God as our King. All right, it says, when do we start reading the Shema in the mornings. It says, Mishiyakir ben Techelet le'lavan. It says when there's enough light that you can differentiate between the Techelet and the white in your tzitzit. When you could differentiate between those two colors, then you know that it's late enough in the early morning to say Kiryat Shema. It says V'gomra shalosh shaot, and you have 3 hours. From then on, you have 3 hours to say the Shema. Why 3 hours? Sheken derech bnei melachim la'amod b'shalosh shaot. Because the princes, they wake up 3 hours later. You know, they don't have to go to work early like all of us, right? They're living in a time where there's no electricity. As soon as there's light, you wake up and you go to work, all right? So we go, as soon as we can differentiate between the Techelet, we put on our tzitzit, we put on our tefillin, we say Kiryat Shema, right? And until when can you say Kiryat Shema? It says until 3 hours. Because the Hazakah is, we are all Bnei Melachim. The first Mishnah that we have regarding Kiryat Shema of anointing God as our king is also pointing to us being princes, the sons of that king, using that same Techelet to prove the point. And look what it says in Parashat Shelach. It says, "V'lo taturu acharei levavchem." Right? You should not be strayed according to your heart. This is "V'lo taturu." It's what the Meraglim did at the beginning. "Vayaturu et eretz Canaan." Latur et eretz Canaan. It comes to fix that mistake, that transgression of the Meraglim. It says, "Ve'acharei enechem," and you should not stray from your eyes, from what you see. What did they see? It says, "V'nehi be'einenu kechagavim." We saw ourselves in our own eyes. We saw ourselves as puny and weak and small. It says, "Lo taturu," don't stray, right, according to your hearts and according to your eyes. "V'sham ra'inu et bnei ha'anak," and we saw these giant, muscular, huge people, and we can't fight them. He says, no, don't stray according to them. Don't forget, you are Bnei Melachim. You are my sons. You are princes. I am God. I am the king. You are my sons, and you are the princes. And that's how you get to, at the end, right, get to that status where Abraham was recognized by all the people in Canaan. It says, Nesi Elohim ata betochenu. You are Prince of God living among us. Prince, right? Again, like the Son of God is a prince. So you're a prince, you're God's prince living among us. And this mitzvah of tzitzit comes at the end, says, Leman tizkeru. Right? This is for the sake that you remember, ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai, that you should keep all of my mitzvot, v'item kedoshim lelohechem. Right? It says, and you should be holy to your God. What does that mean? Kol mitzvotai. Right? So a lot of people like to say you have to have the tzitzit, wear the tzitzit out. Why? Because if you see the tzitzit out, that's uriitemoto, right? And it's meant to remind you of the sea, which is meant to remind you of the skies, which is meant to remind you of the kisei hakavod of God, and that you are the Son of God. First of all, that midrash really is only talking about the techelet. If you don't have the techelet and the tzitzit, it's meaningless, right? You have to have the techelet and the tzitzit for that midrash, right, to portray it accurately. All right. So what's uritem et kol mitzvotai? Is to say no. If you see that tzitzit, it reminds you of all the mitzvot. How does it remind you of all the mitzvot? So some people say because of the knots and how do you call all the things there, it's supposed to come out to some sort of numerical value of 613. It says, but they're missing over there the point. Kol mitzvotai as opposed to only, let's say, kashrut and Shabbat, right? The main mitzvot that we've been keeping through our 2,000 years. How about kol mitzvotai? How about establishing a kingdom? How about mitzvot, melachim u'milchamot, right? The mitzvah to go out to war and defeat your enemies. The mitzvah to conquer the land. How about the mitzvah of building a mikdash and restoring the temple worship? That's called mitzvotai. So when you see the Techelet and you remember that we are princes and we don't need to take humiliation from our enemies, and we need to defeat them. That's called uritem, right? That you see it, uschartem, it called mitzvotai. Va'asitem, you have to fulfill all of my mitzvot, not just the few mitzvot that apply to you personally. Ani Adonai Elohechem, I am your God, right? Your Elohim, your Lord. Asher hoseti etchem eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem leElohim, which I took you out of Egypt, out of bondage, to be your God or your Lord. What does that mean? It says liot lachem leElohim. The other side of that is vatem tiyuli le'am, is that you should be my nation and I should be your Lord. It's a two-side coin. Anytime it says liot lachem leElohim, to be your Lord, it means also on the other side that we are his nation. And this nation, as we saw previously on Shavuot, right? Liot am kadosh, to be a whole goy kadosh, mamlechet kohanim, right? A priestly kingdom, vegoy kadosh, and a holy nation to God. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Says that I am God, your Lord, which also comes with, and nobody else is your Lord, right? You don't need to answer to anybody else but me. Not to France, not to Trump, not to the United Nations. Ani Adonai Elohechem. I am God, your Lord, and nobody else. And okay, so maybe, that's just a nice idea. We have the Techelet. The Techelet comes to remind us that maybe, we're princes. We're meant to save us from Atzat Meraglim. How do we know that it works? So we see in Sefer Yehoshua, this is actually the Haftarah that we read, right? The Haftarah that we read is, we call it Parashat Meraglim 2.0, right? The sequel. The sequel to Parashat Meraglim of Moshe was Parashat Meraglim of Yehoshua. This time Yehoshua isn't one of the spies. He sends out spies. After they enter the land, he sends out spies to Yericho, to Jericho, to check it out, right? Because Jericho has these huge fortified walls. How are we ever going to defeat Jericho? It's impossible. You can't get in. It's 2,000 kilometers away. They have thousands of ballistic missiles. How are we going to defeat them? Right? All these questions. Did that deter them? No, it didn't. All right. They went in. They went into Jericho. They spied on Jericho. It says, "Vayishlach Yehoshua bin Nun min hashitim shenayim anashim meragenim." He sends two people, two spies, Heresh, Nemor Heresh. They went quietly. They snuck in. Lichur ut haaretz vet Yericho. Go and scout out the land and Jericho. Vayelechu vayavo bet isha zona ushma Rahav. And they came to a whore's house. Her name is Rahav. Vayishkevu shama. And they went to sleep over there. Vatomer el anashim. And she says to the people, Yadati, I know. Ki natan Adonai lachem et haaretz. I know that God has given you the land. V'chi nafela ematechem anenu. Says, and that the terror of the Jewish people coming into the land is upon all of us. V'chi namogu kol yoshevei haaretz mipenechem. And that all the inhabitants of the land, all the kingdoms that are currently inhabiting the land of Canaan, are scared of you. Ki shaman, because we heard et asher hovish Adonai et mei yamsuf mitpenechem. It says, because we heard what God did when He split the Red Sea for you. Besetchem mimisraim, when you left Egypt. Vanishma, and we heard that vaymas levavenu, and our hearts melted. Right? It's basically we lost our composure. We're all afraid. Velo kama od ruach beish mipenechem, and nobody has the how do you call it, the omits, right? No one has the courage to stand up to you. Ki Adonai Elohechem hu Elohim b'shamayim mima'al, right? Because God, your Lord, right? Elohechem, He is the Lord of the heavens and above. He controls everybody's airspace, right? You can secure it for anybody He wants. Ve'ala aretz mitachat, and also in the land, in the ground, and underneath, He can take care of all the terror tunnels that there are anywhere in the world. That's not a problem. Before I move on to the next pasuk, right, and explain it, first of all, what is she saying? When did this happen, where everyone is so afraid to stand up to the Jewish people? Besetchem mimisraim, when you left Egypt. So when the Meraglim v'chen hayinu be'eineihem, that they too saw us as these puny locusts that you can just step on, they were wrong. Rahav, right, she's giving us now the inside story, the intel, telling us what the people were really thinking at that time. They heard what happened to Egypt. They heard how God split the sea and crossed us and closed the sea on the Egyptians, and they were scared. So what the Meraglim said, what they projected, was wrong. It wasn't real. All right? Hine anachnu ba'im. So the people respond to her, right? She makes them make a pact with them. I want you to save me and my family. I'm going to help you. They say, no problem, right? They recruit her like Mossad agents. They recruit her. You tell us where it is. You tell us how to enter. You help us exit, right? It says, Hine anachnu ba'im ba'aris. It says, here, we're coming into the land. By the way, ba'im, again, ba'im, right? Vayavo Hebron, right? And Calev came to Hebron. It says, V'od yesh li koach lesed v'lavo. I still have energy to come and go into battle, right? It says, Hine anachnu ba'im, here we're coming into the land, meaning we're coming to conquer the land. Et tikvat hut hashani hazeh tiksheri. It says they give her a thread, how do you call it, a cord, right? Tie this in your window. In the window that you let us escape from. Where did this string come from? What string did they have to give her? People just walking around with strings? You know anybody who just walks around with strings? I'll tell you. Anybody who wears tzitzit walks around with strings. Oh, but you say, so okay, so they're walking around, they have their tzitzit on them, right? Right? So here, a few hilchot tzitzit. Really, the tzitzit is made up of two strings, two types of strings. Sorry, 8 strings in total. Oh, there you go. Right? There are the white strings, and there's the Techelet. But the white strings don't have to be white. The white strings need to be the same color of what you're wearing, and it could be white as a substitute. It doesn't have to be the color of what you're wearing. It could be either the color of what you're wearing or white. Okay? So they give a chutshani. They're wearing, chutshani is like reddish. It's kind of like camouflage. It would make sense that that's what they're wearing, and that their tzitzit would be with strings of that color. And I say, okay, well, we have these strings. They take off a string and give it to Rahav. Tie this in your window. Oh, but you say, yeah, but okay, but if you cut off a string from the tzitzit, it's pasul. It's not kosher anymore. You can't wear the tzitzit. So, but that's only if all the strings are of the same color. However, if you have Techelet, then one of the colors needs to be complete, meaning you either have all of the Techelet intact or all of the Lavan, the white, intact. If one of them isn't intact, it's still fine. If you were to cut off both a Techelet string and a Lavan string, then it's pasul. All right, so if they're walking around with strings, they're wearing tzitzit. If they're cutting off a piece of their tzitzit, it means that they also have the Techelet on their tzitzit. All right? So this is, and it's very interesting. You know, it starts off, the whole Parasha starts off with this episode of the Meraglim. And we'll call it the downfall of the Meraglim. You know, they made a mistake, they messed up, right? What was the problem? They had no national, fire in them, no nationalistic fire in them, and the only one that did was Calev, and he actually went and conquered Hebron, right? Yehoshua got a special beracha, and then here we have in the Haftarah, and at the end of the Parasha, God gives us the antidote to this, to this Atzat Meraglim. He says here, wear Techelet, start to dress like royalty, maybe you'll start to feel like royalty, and maybe you won't be so easily affected by this humiliated mindset, this defeated mindset of we'll call it the leftist or whatever, these people who have no national pride. Okay, and then we have Parashat Meraglim 2.0. All right, the sequel, where now they are wearing this Techelet on them, they're wearing tzitzit with Techelet, and it turns out that it worked out great, right? They did a good job, they came back, they ended up conquering Jericho, an unbelievable, maybe we'll also get into that soon, how they conquered Jericho, all right? After this, if we have time. All right. All right, now let's go back to, one more halacha regarding Hilchot Tzitzit. Hilchot Tzitzit, you're supposed to put Lavan, the white, and the Techelet. Let's see, could you see here? All right. Now look, it's called Honiyot, all these three strings. Let me take off my background. Maybe you'll be able to see it better. Let's see. How do I remove my background? One minute, please. Where is it? Where is it? Nope. Wrong one. Wrong button. I don't see it here. Let's see. Video. Oh my God, let me just fix. Oh, here we go. No, okay, all right. So you get a better view over here. You see, so the tzitzit has, it's made up of. It's one string that's Techelet that wraps around this, wraps around 3 times and then 3 times and then 3 times and 3 times, total of 13 times. But you see the first one, right, starts with the white string and then 2 more wrappings of the Techelet string, and then you have all of them are 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, till you get to the last one, which is 2 wrappings of the Techelet, and it finishes with the white string wrapping around it. All right? So the halakha says, Ma'alin b'kodesh ve'en moridin. Right? So if we started with the white, you have to finish with the white. Okay? So here we did a little crash course of Ilchot Tzitzit over here. And so started the Parasha with Rav Messaas, the chief Rabbi of Morocco. And so we'll finish with him too. All right? How does he? He continues to say, "Mi Parasha zu shel Calev Yehoshua," and from this Parasha regarding Calev and Yehoshua, yesh lilmod harbe af l'sadikei hador. There's a lot to learn, even for the righteous of our generation. He's talking about the Hachamim of his generation, which is like 80 years ago. All right, like 70, 80 years ago. Right? What generation was that? We need to learn our lesson from this parasha. And they shouldn't get mad. They shouldn't get mad at me for what I'm saying here. He's scolding the Hachamim of his generation. However, because even in the Gemara it speaks regarding this destruction, it says, what destruction is he talking about? Well, he says the Gemara, they were talking about the destruction of the temple, but he's talking about the Hachamim of his generation, about 80 years ago, 100 years ago, this great destruction that took place, right? Who are these tzaddikim that he's talking about? He's talking about all the rabbis, right, that were living post-Holocaust or before the Holocaust, who refused to come to Eretz Israel, who objected to Zionism. He says, it says in the Gemara, it says, and if these people were such great tzaddikim, why were they punished? They were punished because they didn't mourn Jerusalem. Says even in the Holy of Holies, what it means, the yeshivot, and in the Batei Midrash, there could be a big flaw, right, in the Torah that they're studying, right, if they don't learn how to develop their national pride. Says this is something that is true for every generation. Because not recognizing the greatness and the value of our land and the kiddusha in our land, right? This is a flaw that accompanies us throughout all our every generation. All right, so Ba'ezrat Hashem, inshallah, we should not be affected by this evil counsel of the Meraglim, not from the Batei Midrash, right, requiring a special beracha from Moshe, like in Yehoshua's case. But if we don't have access to the special beracha, if Moshe can't come around and start giving us free letters, adding letters to our name, then we should learn to develop a national pride to protect us from all these evil counsel of the Meraglim. And that, I think, is one of the biggest lessons that we can learn from this parasha, and also from what's going on today. Right? Right? We don't need to see ourselves as puny just because Iran is 10 times our size. It says, be cunning and you can achieve anything in war. And that's exactly what we did. And that's what we'll continue to do. And inshallah, we'll continue all our wars in this way until we have total defeat of our enemies and total dominance over the Middle East. And that's my lesson for today.
Thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi.
תודה רבה.
Yeah, any questions?
תודה סמי, תודה רבה.
Oh, I can add, we have a little bit more time. I'll speak a little bit about Yericho. So there is something very interesting between Moshe and Yehoshua. All right, when Moshe goes to the burning bush, right, the first time, he goes there and he's like wondering what's happening with the Jewish people. What can I do? And God says to him, he says, Shalna alecha me'al raglecha. He says, take off your shoes from your feet. Ki hamakom she'ata omed, the place that you're standing, kodeshu, is a holy place. All right? And okay. And we see something very, very similar with Yehoshua. Right before the war with Yericho, Yehoshua, he's like wondering, I don't know if it's in his mind or actually wondering, right? He has this vision, and this angel comes to him. He says, Halanu atayim l'sareinu, are you with us or against us? And the angel says that I'm the general of God's army. He says, okay, well, I'm the general of the Jewish army. All right, yeah, nice to meet you. And then the angel says to him, Shal na'alcha me'al raglecha, take your shoe off of your foot, ki hamakom she'ata omed admat kodeshu, the place that you're standing is holy ground. And he was in the outskirts of Yericho. There's no special Kiddusha in the outskirts of Yericho. So what? And with Moshe, you know, even he's in the Arabian desert. What Kiddusha is over there? What's this? And you say, okay, maybe prophetic visions. You have to take off the prophetic vision is holy, so you have to take off your sandals or your shoes. We don't see this repeating with anybody else. No other prophet was instructed to take his shoes off. Even Eliyahu, when he went to Har Chorev, to Mount Sinai, he didn't take off his shoes. So what's going on over here? So I think the taking off the shoes was the message of how to overcome the problem that they each were dealing with. And they were both dealing with a very, very similar problem. It says, with Moshe Rabbeinu in the burning bush was the vision that he had. It was like a parable. It comes to symbolize something. It says, what is this bush? Well, the Hachamim explain the bush comes to symbolize Misraim, Egypt. Egypt, it's a thorny bush, has the thorns pointing in one direction. They say that's because it's those thorns where, you know, you could stick your hand in, but if you try to pull your hand out, it catches on to you. You can't leave. All right? And Moshe, he's pondering the state of the Jewish people stuck in Egypt. He says, right? They're not being devoured by the Sinai, but they can't leave. How do we take them out of Egypt? It's impossible. And God responds to him and says, take your shoes off. And Yehoshua, he's tasked now with conquering Yericho. And he doesn't know how to get into Yericho. The pasuk right before that says, Yericho sugeret sugeret mipnei bnei Israel. Says Yericho is closed off before the Jewish people. En yotzeh ve'en ba, no one could enter, no one could leave. By the way, now we see yotzeh and ba actually means to conquer. En yotzeh ve'en ba, latzet ve'lavo, right? It means actual to conquer. Says en yotzeh ve'en ba, nobody could enter Yericho. So Moshe needs to exit Egypt, needs to get the Jewish people out of Egypt, which is impossible. Yehoshua needs to get the people into Yericho, which is impossible. And what does God say to them? Shal na'alechem al raglecha, says, take your shoes off. The place that you're standing is a holy place. What does that mean? Says, so now is the part is your footwear. It's what connects you to the ground. In the regin, right? Regin in how do you call it? In the language of the Hachamim and in the language of the prophets, means chain of causality. It says leregel hamilacha shelefanai. Says, what does it mean? Shalosh regalim. Says the events that lead up to something, right, or follow something. when Esav meets Yaakov and he says, come with me, and Yaakov says, no, 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 I got too many people. He says, you go ahead, I'm going to take it slowly, right? Because of all this big camp that I have to guide with me. Leregel means because of, means chain of causality. And what's going on here is Moshe and Yehoshua, they're very intelligent people, and they're trying to figure out a riddle. How do I exit Egypt with the Jewish people? How do I enter Yericho with the Jewish people? I can't think of any solution. And God says to them, this chain of causality, this natural chain of causality that you're trying to use to solve this problem, he says, let go. It's not going to work. This problem that you're trying to solve, Kodeshu, it's in my realm. It's in the Kodesh realm. You can't solve this without me. Just do what I say, and I will solve the problem for you. Right? How did we conquer Yericho? We surrounded it 7 times, blowing trumpets. Right? Once a day, right? 7 days, and the walls fell down. Wow, that's a brilliant tactic. Why didn't I think of that? Right? No, you can't think of that. It's not in your realm to think of that. That's just an instruction we got from God, and God took care of it. How did we leave Egypt? He says, Ani velo malach, Ani velo shaliach. Says God came down himself. He says, I came down, I took you out without an angel, without a messenger. Anihu velo achid, me alone and nobody else. He brought down seven plagues on Egypt, right? He killed all the firstborns. He split the sea for us. So why didn't I think of that? Right? Was that a plan Moshe could have come up with? Was a plan to conquer Yericho a plan that Yehoshua could have come up with? Says the end of Mishle, or it was Kohelet, says, Sof davar hakol nishma. Right? The bottom line is, we hear all the opinions, do this, do that, make all the plans you want. So davar hakol nishma, right? Doesn't matter. Et ha'elohim yera, ve'et mitzvotav shemor, ki ze kol ha'adam. All right? Just have your faith and fear in God. Ve'et mitzvotav shemor. Just do what he says. Or in this words of this week's Parasha, kol mitzvotav. Fulfill all the mitzvot of the Torah, not just kashrut and Shabbat. All the mitzvot of the Torah, right? Ki ze kol ha'adam. Man is limited. This is in the realm of man. All we can do is fulfill the mitzvot. All we can do is what God said, and have faith that God will do also as he said. If we do as God said, God too will do as he said. All right? And that's how we exited Egypt, and that's how we conquered Yericho. And you know what? That's probably also how we conquered the land in the War of Independence, and in the 6-Day War, and now in the war with Iran. Right? It was executed flawlessly, way better than was even planned by the Mossad and the security forces and the IDF and the IAF. Right? Why? We did our planning, and there's always things that go wrong in a plan. How did nothing go wrong to a point where we're ahead of schedule? Right? We're ahead of schedule in our plans for Iran. It's because, we did our part, and God's doing his part, and that's all we can do. We just need to do our part. All right? So we have the pilots doing their part. We have the Mossad doing their part. We have the rescue teams doing their part. And we too need to do our part. Keep the mitzvot, right? Study Torah. And when you hear the alarm, do your part and go and stay safe in the mamad, right? That's all we can do. If that's all you can do, that's your mitzvah. And that's what's going to protect us, and that's what's going to win the war. All right?
Thank you.
Now, questions. Take two. Sorry, I couldn't hear. I hear very, very muffled, very, very low.
Nobody's saying anything.
Oh, I thought I heard something.
Maybe it was me. I said, thank you, Sami, and amen. It's really powerful.
Oh, pleasure, pleasure.
Really
Thank you
powerful.
very much. It was really encouraging. It was really encouraging.
Okay, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy you had some benefit from it.
Yeah.